Okay, guys, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee on what is today, the 21st of June. No, 20th, sorry, 20th of June, longest day of the year, at 8:14 in the morning. What we're going to cover today is the new weapons Iran has the government of Israel just warned us today about percussive force from very large bombs. In addition, they're using cluster bombs in missiles, a cluster missile that spews forth 2.5 kilogram uh, little bombs. Could be as many as 20 out of one missile. And we did get an attack today in Beersheba that 18 people sought medical attention, but nobody was moderately or seriously hurt. But there was a lot of property damage. They attacked us during the night, about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and about 6 o'clock in the morning. Nothing. The two attacks earlier was one drone, which we took down, then 3 drones, which we took down. I think we take down 100% of their drones. Their drones are not able to evade us. What the drones are good for to the Iranians is sending the drones to arrive at the same time as the ballistic missiles. So the drones have to leave earlier by hours. And that tends to overwhelm our defense mechanisms. But it doesn't work too good because our helicopters and jets take the drones down, and Saudi Arabia and Jordan tend to take the drones down. I have not heard of any American warships taking the drones down, so Trump's assistance and help to Israel is the kind of help we could expect from an enemy of Israel in a way. In a way. Okay? It was a pretty bad hit we took in Beersheba today. And it's every day we're taking a bad hit. And what's Trump doing? He's twiddling his thumbs, smiling. Oh, Iran, I want a complete surrender. Read between the lines so Trump could take over the oil fields and refineries of Iran and set it up with his friends and relatives and make himself a lot of money, I'm sure, with the oil of Iran. That's what Trump is intoxicated with this to the point where I don't think Trump is operating in the best interest of the United States. Certainly not in the best interest of the United States military, which he's putting out on a limb for something stupid like this versus straight airstrikes. Guys, if he really wants to do a regime change, I'm going to break this down. He's going to need to put probably 150,000, 200,000 troops on the ground in Iran and occupy it for 2 or 3 years till it stabilizes. Or the radical Shiite Muslim fanatic psychotic serial killers will just keep waging war against the new government, whoever that would be, in Iran. To go back to Sharia law in a brutal, evil country that just goes around trying to kill people. So somebody's going to have to go in and stabilize that, and it ain't going to be Israel. UK ain't going to do it. Germany ain't going to do it. Russia ain't going to do it. China, it's going to be America. And these radicals that are left alive in Iran are going to kill the American soldiers if they can, all because Trump wants the oil. You might dislike me for talking like this, but you know, deep down inside, Trump really does want that oil. So he's kind of hanging back right now and letting Israel do all the work, is he not? Oh yeah, he gave us weapons, just like he gives Ukraine weapons, and the NATO countries give Ukraine weapons. It's a proxy. So Trump is attempting to use and successfully using with the help of rotten Netanyahu. The two of them are serving the same God, and it ain't the God of Israel, Jehovah. It ain't him. And they're sitting there, playing Israel like a fiddle. And Israelis are getting hurt and killed and damaged, and they still keep doing it. That's right. So we're going to go through why Trump gave out this 2-week warning, and we're going to go through a pretty good list of the things that happened in the last 24 hours or so that are creating a very bad threat level for the Donald Trump. Okay? And what's scaring him? Trump is scared. If you think Trump's not scared, you're nuts. Trump is not a warrior. He's not a general. He's a businessman. And he is scared of war. Why? Give me some reasons, Moshe. Well, he has a number of huge investments around the world. Golf club, country resorts, Trump Tower buildings, things like this, right? If war breaks out, you think somebody might just go over there and try to destroy his properties? You ever think of that? What about all his properties in America? They could get destroyed too. You ever think about that? See, there's a downside to having a billionaire president. There's a conflict of interest between his own investments and that of the country. What's going to come first, America or Trump's personal investments for him and his family? What do you think? So we're going to cover things like this today. And Israel is taking, basically getting hit every day. It's not nice. It's ugly. And yeah, we keep hitting Iran, and it might take another 2 weeks to shut down Iran's capability to launch at us. It may take another 2 weeks. And that means we're going to get hit every day for 2 weeks. We estimate they have about 100 missile launches. It's probably a real figure. How many missiles? Someplace probably between 1,000 and 1,200. Are they able to keep making more missiles? Probably a little bit, maybe, or none, because we've been hitting their missile production facilities. Is this business of the collapse of the Iranian government and the regime change realistic? No. Prophecy in Jeremiah 49 regarding Elam, which is Iran and likely Iraq and maybe pieces of Syria, show us that it will not happen. Okay, it might happen for a day or a week or something, but it's not in reality going to work. Okay? The nation gets abandoned by the people, and they scatter into all the nations of the earth, and there the sword follows them and they get cut off, which is what they want for Israel. So it happens to them. What's the surprise? It's called reap what you sow. Okay, I'm going to go into the live stream, make sure we got a live stream. Thank you, moderators. I see my moderators here. Thank you, moderators. I see my moderators. Someone asked me if I've seen similar events. Guys, it's Israel that's going to bring on the end times prophetic events. Not Ukraine and Russia, not China, Taiwan, and so forth. It's Israel. Okay, and I've never seen stuff like this happen in Israel, okay, before. And on top of that, volcanoes are high right now, which is mentioned in Mark 13 as a birth pain called columns of smoke. Earthquakes are up, another birth pain in Matthew 24, Luke 21. And crazy weather is going on all over the place, all around the world. Watch for the fires in America, because that's how America's going to get it. But let's continue. I slept through the night. I didn't know anything happened. It didn't get into my area. At 3 o'clock, there was a drone, a single drone. Then at a little after 4, there were 3 drones that were taken down, and I think around 6 in the morning, there was perhaps 5 ballistic missiles, and 1 big missile made a fall in Beersheba and caused a lot of damage to a lot of buildings and cars and stuff like that. 18 people were injured, but none of them was seriously injured. Now, when they say people are injured, it means they sought medical attention, and a lot of them have anxiety. They're hyperventilating, they're panic attacking, and they get treated for anxiety, which is probably initially oxygen and then some sort of sedative or something. Okay, I gotta put my post up in the chat. And the iPad works a whole lot better since I took the case off. It runs much better. I had so much trouble even typing when that case was on. Okay. If you want to put questions up in the chat, you can do so. Hello from TJ. Well, that's unusual to see people from Mexico. Okay. Being a Bible-believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 So the big fear we're getting in Israel is we were warned by our government that there's a threat now of Iran using very powerful missiles with big explosives that can cause percussive forces. Now, we don't know more than this, really. These percussive forces can be pretty substantial or not. If we're talking, I don't know what kind of, we're not talking about a bomb. Israel has bombs that cause percussive force it could easily go a half a mile, but that's a bomb. So how much explosive could they put in a missile? Could they make a 2,000-pound missile and deliver it? Would it be hypersonic or slow? We don't know yet. Is it a phony threat? Could be, but it's coming from the government. It's probably not phony. But Iran makes a lot of threats that they never deliver on. Okay, they didn't get any big missile volleys off yesterday. So Israel, I mean, Netanyahu is doing the right thing mostly, and he's attacking the missile facilities, the launches, anything to do with missiles voraciously. He really is. He's also hitting other targets because he wants to see the regime collapse, and we all do. So, if they're down to 100 launches, with a little bit of luck, they'll be down to 90 tomorrow. And then they'll be down to 80 and then 70. And, it's going to take time. Once you get them down at 20 or 30 missile launches, they're going to stop launching every day. They're going to be afraid to lose what they have, because then they'll have no deterrent value. The bomb shelters may be of little help against big 2,000-pound warheads. With percussive force may collapse the bomb shelters and may be more dangerous to be in them. I don't know. The bomb shelters, the whole concept where they passed laws that you had to have a bomb shelter in your house, this stuff was designed and determined, many years ago, back into the 80s, maybe the late 70s. And the problem back then was what's called Katyusha rockets, which were not aimed. Well, there was also Scud missiles coming from Iraq with Saddam Hussein. But that was in the earlier 90s, and I don't know, he might have launched 5 or 6 or 8 of them or something. They didn't do the bomb shelters pertaining to the Scud missiles. So the Katyushas would have a warhead of, maybe someplace between 12 and 25 pounds of explosives. So the bomb shelters were quite effective. But when you start getting into 50, 60, 100-pound warheads, bomb shelters with a direct hit, they cave in. If you get hit maybe 2 or 3 feet away, it's probably going to hold somewhat. If you're getting hit 15, 20 feet away, it's going to do okay. It'll do its job. But it's not, that great. Now, there's other kinds of bomb shelters. There's community bomb shelters that are usually underground with a lot of concrete between the bomb shelter and the surface. And those are maybe 15, 20 feet deep, but there's a lot of concrete on top of them. They might be 25, 30 feet down. They're down a bunch. The missiles aren't going to bother those bomb shelters. And they're going to detonate on the surface. There's going to be blast and shock, and that's it. There's not going to be death and none of that. I don't think so. So it could resort that we have to go to community shelters. I don't know what they're going to do. People buy bomb shelters because, for whatever reason, and they look like an outhouse, about that size, a portable outhouse that you see at a county fair or something like that, And they will work, but they're not going to take a direct hit, and they're not really, well, I suppose they could anchor them into the ground. They could put rivets in and put them in concrete, on a concrete area, and keep it rather stable so it doesn't blow over. That could probably be done. They're not expensive, they're rather cheap. It's basically very strong concrete with rebar in a little structure of like a building, and you go in there and stand there, and maybe it has a battery operated light, and you could put a little seat in there or something, and you're just in there for 10-15 minutes, you know. So this is going to be troubling, and Israel, I'm not aware of them putting any pressure on Netanyahu. They don't have enough smarts to really understand what Netanyahu's all about. But it appears to me Netanyahu is seriously trying to disable Iran very quickly. And I don't like the guy, but it looks like he's doing that. At the same time, he's also walking in Trump's agenda. But he's trying rather effectively to knock out the missile launchers. Okay? He has Israeli jets loitering and waiting for any movement of missile launchers or turning on any radar with the launchers or anything like that, and then the planes come in and bomb and attack. They could bomb the radar launcher, they could shoot rockets. You know, it's easy to destroy a radar launcher. You have these little 2 3/4 inch rocket pods, they may use those. You know, one of those is probably going to destroy the missile launcher, disable it from being used. 2 or 3, even better. We've crippled some of the missile launchers, and the Iranians are trying to rehabilitate them. So we sent the planes back again to further destroy the crippled missile launchers. We did hit Khomeini's neighborhood today, but they're saying we went, this morning, they're saying we went after Khomeini's house. No. We were doing some other targeting in the area. There's an area where a lot of the leaders live. Khomeini is having a meeting with Germany, France, the UK, and 1 or 2 other countries in Europe. I think it's today or on the weekend. And they're trying to get negotiations going. And let me tell you what Iran is really trying to do. Netanyahu said it, but he said it in a curt way. People didn't understand it. Iran doesn't want real negotiations, okay? What Iran wants is, Iran said we're happy to negotiate, referencing Trump, but they said that they want a ceasefire as a precondition to the negotiations. So in other words, they'll elaborate like this. Well, we're not going to negotiate under stress and threat of war and other threats. No. They're going to probably settle for just the ceasefire. They might ask for relief of sanctions, but that's in Gaga land. So they would probably settle for a ceasefire. Then comes dragging out negotiations. And if Iran could just get 2 weeks to rebuild and restore itself, it would be a much bigger threat to Israel. They could additionally fortify sites they want to protect, like missile launching cities and stuff like that. They could work round the clock manufacturing missiles if any of their factories are rehabilitatable. where you could restore them and start making missiles. And 2 weeks would be probably not what you would see Iran get. You'd probably see Iran get at least a month or 5 weeks out of this. And they would come back with great ferocity against Israel. Now, they threatened to attack the oil-producing countries in the Middle East, their piers, ports, oil refineries, and the American bases. And they have not done that. Will the Iranians ever hit the American bases? I think it's likely, let me just say that, how likely, highly likely, like I'd give it 85%. Okay? See, the Iranians think as they become more desperate to survive, they have to take more desperate, aggressive measures. That's how these psychopaths are thinking. They have no intentions of kissing, Trump's boots or Netanyahu's boots and submitting to them. They'll die first. You got to understand that. They'll die. Okay? Pride cometh before a fall, and they have a massive case of pride. I think one of the real problems here is like what we had with Nasrallah of Hezbollah before Israel killed him. And Nasrallah, it appears, was believing his own lies, that he really had 250,000 or 500,000 missiles, He kept lying to people so much, he was operating like he really had these resources, which he didn't. And he, made bad mistakes, okay? Now, we don't think Khomeini ever had 100,000 or 200,000 missiles like they were talking about. We think could have as few as 1,000 ballistic missiles left, which is a lot of ballistic missiles. He's using a lot of mobile launchers. And I don't know how many of those he has left. They're saying he has 100 launchers left, but they didn't tell us how many are fixed above ground and how many are on trucks. The ones on trucks are very difficult for us to get. They fire a few missiles, and then the trucks hit the gas and try to disappear before our jets come in and take them out. See, this would be a great benefit if Trump came in, because he could fly the Raptors, F-15s, F-35s around Iran with us all day long. So if we were able to keep 12 or 15 fighter jets airborne 24/7, it would curtail the amount of launches that Iran could do. Because if they did a launch, it would be very quick for our jets or American jets to rush in and blow up the launcher. So Iran would be very careful. Now, Trump is playing a psychotic game of regime change, putting the Shah's grandson in charge temporarily, which would probably lead to permanence, according to Trump, I think. They would just run a very specious election and he would win as president. And Trump would put in McDonald's, Burger King, movie theaters would open up, discos would open up, bars, cigar stores, Pizza Hut. They'd probably start selling pork in Iran. I'm thinking movie theaters, European and American movies on the cable, all kinds of internet access, and bring the people of Iran from a darkness of Sharia law and the mullahs into a darkness of liquor, tobacco, discos, movies, TV with all their sick themes, and garbage food, GMO, all the garbage would they'd put it all in, and they'd be making billions on it. Not the regular people. And how would Iran pay for all of this? Well, Trump would go in and give money to Iran to rebuild and reconstruct and get back on their feet. And how would Iran pay Trump back? Well, they'd partner with him 50% on the oil. Just like Ukraine with the precious minerals and metals. How about that? Was that rocket science I just came up with? Why don't you hear this from the other people? The so-called preppers and survivalists that give you the news and tell you to buy iodine pills and don't tell you that America's the daughter of Babylon and don't talk about Zechariah 12 or Malachi 3 or 4 and don't talk about the two witnesses and don't talk about much of anything relevant except Ukraine and Russia. That's a big topic of theirs. Now, some of them now are starting to talk about Iran. I've been getting bored listening to these people lately because they don't know nothing about Israel and what's going on here in Israel. They're in the dark. And that doesn't make them bad people. A lot of these guys are just secular, okay? They're not preaching a false doctrine or anything. They're just secular. Now, they might be in reality Satan bots, but they're not spreading another gospel or anything like that. They're just, creating fear. So people would buy their survival goods, special foods and supplements and bulletproof vests and what else? Survival food and, EMP protection devices and all the garbage they sell. America is going to be destroyed mostly by fire and also by soldiers. But I'm not here to cover that today. We've done it so many times. So we'll go back, and that's not going to happen until Iran is gone, in my opinion. And let me try to take you on a walk here biblically and see if you can grasp this. I think you can. In some of the extra biblical books from the pseudepigrapha and the apocrypha, what they tell us is that, Satan was created in the creation early on. And when God gave Satan life and he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was God. And Satan used to be very happy. And when it said he had pipes, it means windpipes, he could sing. And Satan was extremely happy being in paradise with God. Everything was just great. And the animals were really happy. Things were going quite well. And then the King James says iniquity was found in him. That's lawlessness. But when you get into the extra biblical books, what really happened is Satan started wondering about darkness. He knew light or the good, but he wondered about the evil, and he was asking Jehovah to teach him about evil, and Jehovah refused. Okay? So eventually he pushed himself to find out about evil. And that's the lawlessness. And the Lord was telling him that this evil or this darkness leads to death. That's important because it does. Okay, so there was rebellion in heaven. A third of the angels got thrown out. He tricked Eve, who tricked Adam.
No, I said you were in.
And all of these problems came about. You know, the fallen angels laying up with the women and all that stuff. So things started out with light or good. And then it evolved into darkness. So people had the light and they went to the darkness, the women laying up with the angels, and the angels laying up with the women, and probably the animals, and all of this stuff. Okay, so what is happening now, since 70 AD, or really since Yeshua paid the price by dying, okay, you could actually go back there. But there was actually a lot of light left after Yeshua died. And the early congregations with the apostles were thriving for a while. And they left Israel before 70 AD happened. The believers left. And then 70 AD happened. And that was the end. That was the light was gone. Not that the Messianic believers back then got killed. They were scattered. And they're trying to persecute Messianics again here, the government. So pray for that, okay? Please. We don't want to see that. And feel free to do spiritual warfare all you want. Toss salad, whole enchilada, go for it. So what happened is Yeshua said, now is the light, and you could work, but soon comes the night and no man can work. That was 70 AD. And nothing happened again until very recently, when the true gospel started getting spread around. Okay? That's the crack of light getting in. But as you're well aware of, most of the people that read the Bible reject the real gospel. Okay. So it's only affecting a few, but that's going to radically change very shortly. All right. What he's doing with us, our generation that are believers, is we grew up and lived and experienced darkness first. A reverse of what happened in heaven before, at the very early creation times, Adam and Eve and so forth. They had experienced the light and went for the darkness. And it caused nothing but trouble all the way through till today, right? Of course it is, right? Wars and murders and persecutions and all that. Okay, so now we go to today. So we grew up with darkness, right? And the darkness, depending how old you are, kept getting worse. I'm old, so I can tell you it kept getting worse and worse. Okay? And it's still getting worse. But soon we're going to be in the light or the good. And it's going to knock you over, so to speak, how good the good is, how good the light is. You can only imagine it, you can't really imagine. You don't know. Those that wait on the Lord shall not be disappointed. You will get a double portion. You don't understand how good it will be. I don't. None of us do, okay? We read it, oh, everlasting life. We get a glimpse, a little bit. Maybe we pick up 3%, 5%, 10% even. But we don't get the full impact of it. We don't. Okay? But we will very shortly. And you people that have lived in the darkness that are going to be living in the light, I can't possibly imagine you being in the falling away that you read about in Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11, which precedes Jeremiah, which precedes the Ezekiel 38 and 39, the Gog and Magog stuff. It also fits in with Zechariah 14. So, you're not going to be in those that fall away. Who will be? Well, how long is he giving us? It's a 70-year period. When he appears, it begins the second 70 in Daniel 9:24, which closes at when Yeshua returns, and the beast and the false prophet go in the lake of fire. Satan goes in the pit, and Jerusalem comes down. That's when the second 70's over, and Yeshua's with us. Then we have a whole new level of light that's even better. For those of us that went the 70 years in Israel, living rather wealthy and not sick or ill or damaged bodies, and now he's going to give this opportunity to all the Israelites, lost tribes and otherwise, and they're going to have the everlasting life and all of that, and they're going to fall away, some of them, I guess. But what about the children? The children are not, now these Israelites, you see, they also grew up in darkness. But at the time, before their redemption, they didn't know it was darkness, but they will know. And they'll look back, and they may not fall away either, because they know how stupid it is to chase after a non-God God who tells you he's a God and can't deliver nothing. Okay? That's Satan and the demons, all right, and the fallen angels. So, what about the children during these 70 years? They're going to grow up in prosperity, wealthy and all that, have everything easy. That could be a source of the problems. We don't know where it's going to come from yet, and we don't need to worry about it yet. Daniel 9:24 does not say 70 weeks. That's the most idiotic twisting of scriptures I ever saw. It's so blatant. It's the same exact word used twice, shavim, in the Hebrew. So when it says it the first time, it means 70, and when it says the second time, it means weeks? Of course not. It's the second 70. When was Jerusalem destroyed? 70 AD. What happened? Yeshua was born. That was a big event. The Chuchim, or the wise men, were following the star, and they were bringing, gifts, gold, frankincense, and stuff to the baby Yeshua. Herod was killing the male babies of the Jews, and it was a big event. And it went on for 70 years until the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple, and that was it. And it went into darkness and was still in darkness. Satan and the people that follow him do everything they can to perpetuate the darkness, but it will come to an end very shortly, in the days ahead. And then comes the light. Arise, shine, your light has come, the glory of the Lord has risen upon thee. See, we'll be in the light. So, I don't know who the falling away is going to be, and I'm not really trying to place it right now. We've got other things facing us that are way more pressing and important, because they're coming right up in our face, than to project ourselves out 63 years down the road with the falling away. We got plenty of time to deal with that. Why don't we take several decades to relax, enjoy ourselves, grow families, be fruitful and multiply, and we can worry about it when it happens. We don't need to sit there and dwell upon it right now, do we? No. So I don't spend a lot of time teaching about Gog and Magog or teaching about the millennium, because we got way more pressing things coming on us with Zechariah 12 and Malachi 3 and 4, don't we? Of course we do. So now we're going to have a chance, and the kids that will have a chance to live in the light. And will they fall away and go for the darkness? Well, what we'll have to do is tell them plenty of stories and tales accurately about what it's like with the demons and Satan. That's the only answer. Raise them up in the Lord. That's it. And pray, and that's all you can do. Okay? So in the beginning they grew up in the light, and then they got curious, went to the darkness, and that brought death. So now it's a reversal. We grew up in the darkness, and we know about the death. We know about friends and relatives dying, and animals and pets dying, and all the stuff that saddens us. We know how sad evil is. We know how sad a world under Satan is. It's pathetic, okay? And we'll soon know what it's like to live in a world under Jehovah in the light. I have a lot of trouble imagining any of you all would go back to that. You know too much. You wouldn't do it. Are some of you all going to be here before the appearing of the sign of Son of Man? I don't know. I think so, but I don't have the scripture for it, so I keep pondering it. We'll see, won't we? Okay. So, if Iran really does start using very heavy bombs, and they start causing a lot of deaths and casualties, the people in Israel are going to bear down on Netanyahu. But I don't think they're going to try to throw him out of office. They're going to tell him to accelerate things. And they need to take their attention off the nuclear facilities and ignore that right now. And they need to ignore bombing police stations and government centers, although actually maybe not, because that has some value. The value is it puts a lot of pressure on the Iranian regime because it's falling apart. And the more it falls apart, the harder it's going to be for them to launch missiles. So I should take that back. That's actually constructive for Israel. Targeted assassinations is constructive for Israel. I think knocking out their electricity is something Netanyahu has to do, and I'm afraid Trump's telling him not to do it. Because Netanyahu's big on knocking out power. So if he knocks out the power in Iran, okay. See, now, he doesn't, if he goes inside Iran 300 or 400 miles and knocks out the power, it makes it more difficult for Iran to deliver those missiles to us if they can't get them launched close to the border. They use southwestern Iran typically, but with the mobile launches, it doesn't have a lot of relevance because they're still going to have generators, for their, they don't have to plug into a wall socket to turn on their launchers. They turn on the motor of the truck, and then they have a generator that probably feeds off of a 100-gallon gas tank and runs the generator, and that kind of thing, one way or the other. So that's a very difficult problem for us to resolve. And Iran knew that. And what Iran also knows is that a ground invasion of Iran is ridiculously stupid. Okay? But having a revolution where people overthrow the mullahs is not ridiculously stupid. But it's rather difficult because you have to weaponize these rebels. And you could cause great catastrophe by doing that. So it's a problem. So people start getting killed here, and cars and buildings keep getting destroyed. Um, is Netanyahu going to go for a ceasefire with Iran? No. He knows all he's going to buy at most is 6 weeks, and they'll come back at us full force again. And he doesn't want that. He has him where he wants him, and he has to keep putting pressure on and crush him. This repeated going back to the nuclear sites with, 2,000, 5,000 pound bombs and trying to destroy them for real with multiple attacks on them, it's nonsense. I mean, I wouldn't worry about that at all. He has to work on other things. And the problem is the Iranians run around with these mobile missile launchers and they hide them. And then when they want, they whip them out and they lock in the coordinates, and then they whip the missile launcher out and they turn it on. They launch a missile and then they try to get the heck out of the area as quick as they can before loitering jets of Israel come in right on the launch site and start trying to blow the launchers up. Sometimes we get them and sometimes we don't. So this is where we're at. Now, why is Trump playing games and backpedaling and all that? Well, let me tell you about some events the other sites don't know about yet. Hezbollah said that they would be very open to helping Iran. Now, they're in Lebanon, and I don't know what they could do. They probably do have some missiles secreted away somewhere that they could launch at Israel, and drones. I think the impact on Israel would be superficial and minimal. They could try to break through our border, but again, I don't think they'll get anywhere with that. What this is going to do is going to illustrate to Israel and the world that the real government of Lebanon isn't going to do anything to stop Hezbollah from attacking us, and we're going to have to attack the real government of Lebanon, and that's the only way that's going to stop, and that's very consistent with the Bible. Lebanon, open up your doors, let the cedars of Lebanon burn. They're not going to get completely devastated and destroyed. They're going to have to get busted up. The government of Lebanon has been infiltrated heavily by Hezbollah, and there's Muslims in there that hate us. And there's Catholics in there that also dislike us. They think that we're not a nation that deserves to exist. They call themselves Christian, they're Catholics. And they're anti-Israel too. So not everybody in Lebanon is anti-Israel, but it's profound. So what we're going to have to do is go in there and attack the real government of Lebanon, not just Hezbollah, and that'll shut that down. Okay, it's not going to take much. The Houthis will help Iran. How? Well, other than attacking Israel. They'll attack Saudi Arabia and Jordan and the UAE they could reach, and they'll try to take out their oil, the refineries with their missiles, which seem to be pretty competent missiles, and I think they'll be able to do it. that's going to start running your oil prices up significantly, like 150, 200 a barrel or more. Even 300 a barrel. 500 a barrel is hard to imagine. It could happen, but it's difficult to imagine. The Iranians, I believe, are taking measures to block the Straits of Hormuz and stop the oil flow from coming out of the Persian Gulf, which is 20% of the world's oil, 1/5. If you stop that, you're not going to get $200-300 a barrel for oil. You'll probably get $100-120, someplace in there, $90. It's going to go up, but it's not going to freak out. Now, if you start attacking the oil refineries of Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia, then you're going to get 200, 300, 400 or more. Okay? And Iran knows this. It doesn't help Iran. It doesn't save Iran. What does the mullah, the Khomeini jerk, think? It thinks that doing something like this is going to give him leverage because he'll remind them he could do it again and again and again. So he's going to try to get people off his back and let him go continue with his ballistic missiles, his nukes, and sell his oil without sanctions so he could build up a good war chest and then kill everybody that's not a Muslim as he believes Muslims should operate. And that's what you're dealing with, a psychotic idiot. He's so psychotic, his, let's call it, business and military decisions are impaired. Okay, because look at all the stress he's under. All his generals getting killed. The replacement generals are getting killed now. He doesn't know the replacement generals well. He's in trouble. He's in hiding. Where he's in hiding is known to Israel, and it's being bombed and attacked. And not a happy camper. Do a little spiritual warfare for the Weisenheimers that think they're going to get over on me. They just learned a lesson. Just like what happened to you happened right now. You're going to the lake of fire for billions and billions of years, you morons. Okay, if your gods were God, how could I do what I just did to you? They're probably not watching or listening anymore. They freaked out. Okay, so can Hezbollah be a threat to America? Yes. They could help attack the bases in these countries in the Middle East. They can help attack oil refineries and ports and piers. Okay? What about Iraq? They'll go in the war if Iran asks them to. Iran will ask them. Okay. So we also have a threat from Lebanon. Lebanon might be able to fire at ships in the Mediterranean. Lebanon could fire at Israel, and it'll probably be the regular army of Lebanon plus the Hezbollah. Lebanon and their army could try to storm into Syria, and the Syrian HTS government may be able to hold them off to some extent. Don't know how that would play out. If the regular army was involved, the Syrian HTS would lose, but I don't know how serious the Lebanese army would be about doing something like that. I don't think they're going to see a motive in there. Okay, the Iraqis can launch drones at American bases, missiles at American bases, cause a lot of problems, hit the oil refineries of the other countries and their ports and piers so they can't ship oil out. Real problem. Okay. You're getting a feel for some of the problems, and that's why Trump's afraid. He doesn't know what to do. He's not a military guy. He's a businessman, and he doesn't know. And he's probably smart enough to know that trusting generals has caused the downfall of many regimes throughout history. So he's probably saying, well, if they're so smart, why aren't they billionaires like me? Why are they generals? Well, they don't want to be businessmen. They want to be generals. But that kind of thinking is a little bit hard for them, for Trump. Okay. Now, there's other reasons that I'm going to go through with you now that got Trump very, very worried. There's also Iranian-backed militia in South Syria that will rise up against Trump's military bases in Syria and possibly other countries in the area. More trouble for Trump. Now, of course, I covered the Houthis in Yemen. North Korea already said they're in the war on the side of Iran, but they haven't done anything at all. They just gave us lip service. They could, I don't know why, do a sea lift of 100,000 soldiers to Iran. It wouldn't stop the destruction, and it would take months for them to do it. Trump could lose thousands of soldiers. Trump could lose warships. There's going to be 3 aircraft carriers in the Middle East. The second one should be here by today or the latest tomorrow, although they're not talking. And then they're going to be getting the Gerald Ford will be coming over here, I think. That's the third one. I don't have a date for that yet. Probably by the end of next week or something. And Trump is likely planning on waiting for all these extra aircraft carriers and their escort vessels to show up because he's scared and he's trying to make a show of force. Okay? The mere fact that he's trying to make a show of force tells me he doesn't really understand the Middle East yet. Because these crazy Muslims don't respond to anything in the form of a threat other than annihilating them. When you start annihilating them and heads and arms and legs go flying, then they start paying attention. Trump is intoxicated with the Iranian oil, and it's causing his judgment to go off kilter. And that's your problem here. That's why he's backpedaling with Iran and trying to walk soft and hold himself out to be on one hand a friend of Iran, and the other hand able to control what Israel does to Iran. Trump is also very scared of oil prices spiking because he's going to have to subsidize American oil prices, and he could handle that. But he can't subsidize Africa, South Central America, and Europe oil prices, no. So the world could go into a bad tailspin. And it's another fear Trump has. So let me take a peek at the live stream and see what's going on. I appreciate it if you would hit the like button. I know the majority of you are never going to send offerings in, but you could hit the like button. When do I think the next temple will be built? Read Ezekiel chapter 37, the last 3 verses. It doesn't get built. God places it here amongst us and brings the mountain, Mount Zion, back too. That's why the ultra-Orthodox have not built the temple. They know that. And your churches don't teach you that. But there it is, right there in Ezekiel 37, the last 3 verses. You're welcome, Polly. I don't think he's the son of the Shah of Iran. I think he's the grandson. Could I be wrong? Yeah, but I don't think so. I think he's actually the grandson. The Shah of Iran in the mid 70s was a very old character. He was no spring chicken in 74, 75, you know. He was an old guy. That Khomeini stepped down, I have not heard that. What Khomeini did is he gave up some of his duties to his new generals because the old generals were killed. Multiple sources are saying he's not firing on all his cylinders right now. He realizes his death is imminent. All his right-hand men have been killed. And now they're replaced, and he doesn't know the replacements. He's living in fear of his life in underground bunkers. They're getting attacked anyway, which means the Jews know where he is. And he's freaking out. The successor to him is his son. So we would not accomplish a tremendous amount of gain if we killed Khomeini and didn't take out his son. His wife is not relevant. So will we do that? I don't know if we can. The son is probably living in another location somewhere inside Iran. And I don't know where the kid is, and I'm not sure Israel knows where he is. So Netanyahu has to understand there's a limited amount of missiles and drones that Israel is going to tolerate because they're blowing up real estate and killing and hurting people. And it's got to come to an end. And Netanyahu, like I say, and I don't like the guy at all, seems to be doing all the right things, pretty much. Maybe I would do things 25% different than him, but he's doing the right things. I'm going to take a break for a minute and we'll take a look at the future here. Two other problems that Trump has. One is, what does he do being afraid of war like he clearly is? Objectively, he's scared to death of war. Just look at his behavior. What he got to worry about is, let's say, China, who can't get oil without using Iran. Russia's oil capacity to generate, oil and sell it has been knocked out by about 25-30% by Ukraine, perhaps more by now. And also perhaps on the other side of the fence, Russia managed to repair the refineries that were hit and to keep them going again. I don't know the status of that. I haven't heard they've been repaired, so perhaps not. What does he do if China sends, let's just say, 6 warships with an aircraft carrier to the Persian Gulf and just squats there and says, we're here to protect Iran? At the same time, Iran is not letting ships pass through the Straits of Hormuz unless they're friends of Iran. Now, how would that work? Well, the way it would work is if you join BRICS and promise to not sell oil for euros or US dollars, your oil, you can ship all the oil you want in and out of the Persian Gulf. Now, is Trump going to sink those ships? No. Would Iran sink them if they weren't cooperating with Iran? Absolutely. See, the problem Trump has, he doesn't have any guts here, okay? And he's greedy for money, too much. Well, let's go back and look at this another way. Let's say Russia sends 6 or 8 destroyers and missile cruisers over there with 6 or 8 boats from China. And the 2 of them sit there and they say, we're here to protect Iran. If you fire on Iranian vessels or this or that, we're going to fire back on you. What would Trump do? 9.9 on a 10 scale run away. That's the big bad Trump. He'd run away. Almost 100% chance he'd run away. He would say, I'm out. That's what he would say, I'm out. And leave Israel to fend for itself. Do I think that Russia's going to do this? No, I do not. Because then Trump's knee-jerk would be to give Ukraine very long-range weapons along with other European countries and teach Russia a lesson. Russia's not going to do that. Is China going to do that? Maybe. They might also come with 40 warships. They might say, heck, we could attack. North Korea could attack South Korea. We could attack Japan and Taiwan anytime we want. If we get rid of America first, we could really attack those countries in Asia without any resistance and take them over. So it's smarter for us to attack America first. So how would they do that? Well, they might want to embed America into a big fight in the Middle East, so they send a bunch of warships over there. What about China sending air defense systems to Iran? Problem with that, aside from the size and the transportation, and aside from the fact that Israel's blowing up lots of airports and have blown up a lot of airports in Iran, if China brings these planes in, it's almost for sure after the planes land and take off, Israeli jets are going to blow up the cargo. Whatever came off those planes is going to be blown up. Even if the Chinese jets are still there, they'll just blow the cargo up, leave the Chinese jets alone. That's a real good reason why that's not going to happen. This brings us to Trump waiting for the other two aircraft carriers to show up, while Israel gets a good pelting from Iran because he doesn't give a crap about the Jews getting killed. His God likes Jews getting killed. Think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. Wake up. And, you know, people in Israel are falling for Trump just like they did in America. He's an incompetent buffoon. Is he competent with business? Yes and no. Look how he failed miserably with the tariffs. Who settled the tariff thing with him? Maybe China did temporarily. That's it. You know? Trump's quite destructive, and he's not productive. And there's going to be a recession in the United States pretty quickly. Look at all the money he saved with DOGE, and he never gave a stimulus package to the people in the United States. You think he likes the non-Satan butt people in the United States? He hates their guts. He wants them to be slaves. You guys got to wake up. How wicked these people are. They would never have the billions of dollars and hold the office of the seated president of America unless they were evil and wicked to a level that Satan believed in them. So don't think he's not going to keep seeing Israel get strung along and keep getting Israel punished. Satan's thinking, well, if I get Israel to take enough bombs and missiles and rockets, the Jews will start leaving Israel. It's not going to happen. We never leave the land again. So can Netanyahu finish off Iran without Trump? Yep. How? Non-stop attacks on the missile launchers and the missiles and the drones. That's the only thing. The other stuff helps. The targeted assassinations. It helps. Confusion, disarray, hitting the government buildings. It helps. It breaks their morale. It shows them how pointless continuing the fight is and so forth, right? Hitting the police stations. Ultimately, it'll lead into riots and looting and destruction and people turning against the government and going after each other. The Shiites versus the more secular Muslims. That'll happen too. So I can't really criticize Netanyahu's behavior when it comes to this. What's the time frame? Well, within a week, Israel's going to knock down the number of missile launches substantially. It may take a week after that yet, and they'll even go down even more substantially. Now, is anybody going to come in and help Iran? It's possible, but I don't see signs of it. I don't think China wants to get embedded in a war far away from home in the Middle East. North Korea just goes out and says stuff, oh, we're going to back Iran. What are they going to do? And Russia's got their hands full. So who's going to come to their aid? Nobody. China and Russia realize if they come to the aid of Iran, it's going to be nothing short of a world war. And even then, they may not save Iran. And if Netanyahu starts taking, 2,000-pound bombs and dropping 5 or 6 of them on oil refineries, well, the oil refinery's back to scratch. It's going to be on fire for a long time. And you're going to have to just rebuild the refinery in another location. You could also attack oil wells. And here we sit. It's no fun for us here. And I don't see anything going on with the Israel seriously getting rid of Netanyahu right now. They have a fear of changing the administration during a war. And what I see is Iraq rising up, Lebanon rising up, and the Houthis already rose up. And that's scaring the daylights out of Trump. And Trump may pull out. But Iran will get destroyed by her enemies in these days, and it may not be America. They may attack the oil-producing countries in the area, and, France and Germany and the UK and them, they may come in and say, this is idiotic with Iran, we got to stop Iran. They may come in and fight alongside Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. These Arab countries put together can wipe out Iran on their own. They got F-16s, they got F-15s. Remember, Israel may help them also, so that could be the case, and America just does nothing. Don't kid yourself about this. Do I expect that to be the case? No. Trump wants that oil, and he doesn't understand it ain't never going to happen. So he tries. So what do you do at this point? Well, you just got to sit tight and watch what happens. There's not much else to do. Do your spiritual warfare against Iran, America. You could add in Yemen and the Houthis and Israel. So let them be very confused this way and not know what's going on. Let me see what's cooking in our live stream. If we have any questions. Someone had an interesting comment. It says, I think, speaking of Trump, I think he's making it look like he gave them a chance and they didn't take it, so that he tried to make peace to show his base he's not pro-war. Yes, but he wants the oil. Please hit the like button, guys. It's a 2-second job. The least it could do, right? The 2-week statement is also likely just before that. He said the New York Times doesn't know what I'm thinking. They couldn't possibly know what I'm thinking. False news. So he came out with the 2 weeks, and he didn't say it has to be 2 weeks. He put a limit on it of 2 weeks, and he also was saying it could be a day or two. So he's, I think, doing it to confuse the press. Or not, I don't know. How does it resolve without complete warfare? It resolves according to Bible prophecy. The destruction of Iran is so bad, all the people evacuate into all the other countries of the world. That's how it ends. The enemies of Iran do it. Plural, not just Israel. Silver is up. Silver was down a little bit. I'm going to look at gold and silver. It was actually down a little earlier today, a couple hours ago. We'll take a look right now. We'll go to Kitco and get the spot price of gold and silver. Very quick and easy to do that. But it was down. Oil was about $74 a barrel earlier, I believe. No, gold's not up. It's at 33.42. It was in the 34s the other day. Yesterday, I believe. And silver's 35.50. It was in the 36s. No, it's down. Both gold and silver, it's down. Not up. No. You got to be more careful when you check this. That's not the case. Do I think it's going to go up? Oh yeah, both. But it'll be when more serious events break out. Let me take a quick look at my extensive social media, which comes from Arabic and Farsi and Hebrew and English and other languages from around the world, and see if I could come up with anything about Khomeini, but I don't think he did anything. But let's take a look. So Beersheba was the city that got hit today, early in the morning. Um, we're actually beginning to strike. Well, it's been going for a few days. We're striking missiles being readied by the launchers. A lot of their liquid fuel, not solid fuel missiles, need to be fueled right with that liquid fuel right then and there just before launch. So it's very precarious and dangerous for them to do that, but they're doing it and we're destroying a bunch of their missiles at the same time. I'm not seeing anything about Khomeini uh, that anything happened to him. We are cyber attacking Iran. Well, we're getting reports now in Iran that there's shortages of food, medicine, electricity, and fuel. Banks have closed and they may not open up. They don't have the cash. Um, they don't want people sucking their money out of the banks, so they just closed. Their stock market is closed, as far as I know. Public transportation in Iran is paralyzed. Prices are rising sharply because they're running out of goods. Hospitals are collapsing, lack of equipment and personnel. Media shut down. The internet is, for the most part, disconnected. But not completely. So Iran is crumbling. There has been a collapse of the rule of law in Iran, signs of the lack of government control. We've been blowing up the police stations in Tehran and other cities. There's been hundreds of arrests in Iran of citizens, journalists, and activists, anti-Mullah people. It's Israel is winning, but at the same time we're paying a nasty price. Um, got to remember that Israel's had economic issues with tourism for a long time now. Nobody comes during the wars, and you lose 85-90% of your tourists. And with COVID preceding that, we were losing our people. Hey, I'm gonna check another guy in Arabic. Well, no, he's in Hebrew, sorry. But he reads Arabic and he gets stuff out of the Arab papers and Farsi papers. The U.S. military began transporting refuelers and bombers to Diego Garcia. That's interesting. I don't see any signs of Khomeini stepping down, guys. If anything like that happens, it would basically be the beginning of the end, or perhaps the end of the fighting. Would they ever surrender? I don't know. I really don't know if you'll ever see a surrender. I doubt it. Trump does not understand the Middle East. I don't think he understands Asia either. He doesn't understand a lot. He never got rid of Obamacare like he promised in his first term, and he never did it in his second term either. So you got a president that breaks promises. Remember that. Is he better than Biden and Obama? I guess so, but he's still not what you want. He ain't what you want. He's serving the gods of the dead. That's it. Okay, that's what I got for now. I'll probably do live stream updates when things happen of significance during the day. I will update my Telegram probably 25 times today. So I hope you got something out of this. And please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, joy, and healing of our bodies, which we need, and pray for our finances, and pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole, and safe and secure. Pray for our house, property, and car not to get damaged, and us. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and pray for victories for us, and pray for the two witnesses to start working, which will change everything. And it'll be soon, believe me. And pray that I make better videos with more insights to prophecy and what's going on in the world. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out. Please hit the thumbs up button. Thank you.